Hello. Hi, you guys. Peek out here again in Singapore, and I'm so sorry. I had Imani Aeishah on here just for a moment there, and for some reason I'm having a lot of disturbance in my. Here we go. Let's see if I can get her back on, and we'll get back to what we were talking about. What's going on? Hey, Anand, how are you? So today we're talking about relationships in general. Is that better? Does that sound a little bit better?
Yeah, it's always sounded good to me. Does it sound good to you?
We'll work with it. I'm okay. So I see August is on here. Thank you, August, for introducing the
Hey,
both
I
of us.
can't
I
see.
appreciate
Hey,
it.
August. Yes.
So we were talking about common themes in relationships in general. And
Yeah.
most of the time when you post a lot of questions on your Facebook, and I try to answer whenever I see them, because I like the way you ask the question. And it's not the same old, so, do you still talk to your spouse? Hey, I see bilingual brown babies over there. What's up?
Hey.
Me, what's going on? So it's not the usual question, how's married life? It's a little deeper than that. You actually get people thinking. So I really appreciate it. So I enjoy looking out for your posts and then answering wherever I can. And I was
Thank
just
you.
curious, we were just talking about common themes, common
Yeah.
dialogues in relationships in general. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and we had to cut off at that point. So if you wouldn't mind picking
Yeah.
up.
No, it's fine. I was like, okay, I don't know what you heard. But basically, I was just saying, basically, one of the biggest things. Hey,
Hey, Sarah.
conversion.
Yeah.
um, One of the biggest things is, and I'm not even gonna say the C word because you already know, but going deeper from just communication, but feeling like you're being heard, feeling like the person that you're dealing with gets you, understands where you're coming from, accepts you for who you are. And so we all want to be seen. We have this desire, like, I want you to see who I am, and then I want you to accept that. Because as I'm going through this journey of evolving, whether you're a sibling, you're a friend, you're, a parent, whether you're a lover, it's like, look, here I am, and
Yeah.
so whenever there's a break in that, whenever there's a break in feeling like, okay, you really get me, you see me, you care for my well-being, then that's when the break comes and breaks down into the relationships, what those relationships are. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think I saw something today. You posted something about trust. Do you remember? And you were talking about people. They talk about their spouse, and yeah, we have no trust issues at all. But I know from my own, from my own marriage experience, once I ask a couple times and something doesn't happen, I stop asking. I don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable asking anymore. I don't want to hear the no
Yeah.
anymore. So I kind of I back off in certain areas, and that happens in
Yeah.
a lot of relationships actually.
Oh yeah.
With me and my mom, there are certain things I will ask her, and some things I would just not even broach the subject. I just avoid it
Right.
completely. Yeah.
Right. No, I get it, and I think I know what you're talking about, because when I ask people about trust, and I think it's because of what I do, they
Hmm.
automatically think like, no, I trust. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's cheating on anybody. Like, it's not. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, but the trust is a very layered thing, because, like you said, if you're shutting down, if you're like, I don't feel like I can broach this conversation with you, then there is, an issue with trust, because either you don't trust yourself, you don't trust that they're going to accept you, that they're going to
Hmm.
listen, that you don't trust they're not going to dismiss you or shut you down. And so
Hmm.
you make certain decisions based upon that lack of trust. And so when people first come, they're like, no, I trust myself implicitly. Then I say, okay, but you just told me you don't want to talk to him
Right.
about this financial situation.
Hmm.
Well, where's that coming from? You know what I mean? And they don't necessarily see it as trust off the bat. So then we have to
Right.
back up and be like, hold up, this is an issue with how I trust you with myself, with my thoughts, with my feelings, with my
Right.
opinions. You know?
Will you take me seriously when I say something instead of yeah, okay, you're on a rant again. Let's just let you blow some steam and we'll get back to whatever it is that's
Right.
going on.
Right. And it's difficult because when we have history with somebody, right, and you talk about relationships in general, when you have history with somebody, be it friends, siblings, and for me, people who are in romantic relationships, you can be put into a box. It's like, well, I've always known you to be like this. And so
Hmm.
when you're coming to me like this, I already feel like I know what's going on. I already feel like I know what my response is going to be, or I'm already annoyed because I know what's going to come out your mouth.
Yep.
You start to have that. And if the person, as we naturally do, tend to, we evolve, we try to work on ourselves, we improve who we are, we come to revelations or realizations about ourselves, and we start to shift the behavior. Sometimes, they don't believe you. They're still reacting to how it used to be, as opposed to, okay, this is what I'm trying to step up to the plate with now. And so then we have to be like, okay, I get it. This has been the history. So how do I continue to be consistent in this, where I'm not trying to prove it to you, but I am just embodying the fact that I have made a shift and have made a change, and eventually you'll pivot to that, you know?
Exactly. What was I? I was thinking something, and then it just went off. But you were right. So you do tend to get pigeonholed even with certain people. Like, if you meet someone new, they don't know anything about you. You can tell them anything, and you have no fear of whether they will accept it or not, because honestly, you're not expecting it to go further than today. So you're very honest. You're very, just vulnerable, and you're happy to just share whatever it is. But fast forward a couple of days or a couple more conversations, and suddenly, based on what you hear them say, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't tell them that about me because they're already triggered by this certain thing. I feel like a lot of our conversations also are around how to do just because we feel like doing. I think we talked about love in a marriage, and I was saying something about to the effect of, I love you and I choose to love you because I want to. It's not because I want anything in return. It's just because I feel the love. I'm going to tell you I love you. It's not one of those, I'm leaving now, I love you. I'm hanging up the phone, I love you. It's like, man, I love you. It's like me and my daughter. Whenever I feel it, I'll hold her hand and I tell her I love her, and I give her a hug or a squeeze, whatever. And I wish we could be like that with everybody. Yeah. But it's going to take some work, I think.
Yeah, and I think, and actually to me, I think you mentioned something. I saw it on the way in here about choosing to love in this sense that in our relationships we make that choice, because I think it also goes back to what we were just talking about the acceptance and all of that. We desire to be loved, so there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes people say that and it's like, well, I want to be loved, so am I wrong because I want to be loved? No, but if you are pouring into the other person with such a heavy expectation of getting poured back into, but not because that's genuinely how you feel, then the intention and all of that has kind of shifted.
And I think that's what I mentioned. It's more like a business relationship. I want something, so I'm going to do this for you.
Right. And it's true. You know what I mean? And it was funny because I was watching this clip of something, and that came up, and it was a neighbor relationship. It was like, look, I offered you my key as a neighbor, so for emergencies, really because I wanted you to give me yours, and when you didn't give me yours,
I was offended. Exactly.
I was offended. And so it's one of those things where it's like wanting that kind of that feeling to be to be close to someone is normal, but we do have to check where that's coming from. We do have to check our genuineness in that. You know what I mean? Because there are going to be times when your person is not feeling so loving towards you in action, and do you still choose to love them through that part of it? And that shit ain't easy. You know what I mean? Like, that part is like, damn, I don't even know who you are right now. And that's when it really comes to, I'm making this conscious decision to be like, okay, I am still choosing to love you through this. Right now, you're not in that space, but I can hold that space.
Right. I did want to broach something because it's something I do, and I feel like you're one of those people that I can get on a conversation with, and I can have you dissect everything that I've done, and I'm cool with it because I trust we have that kind of communication. But I think it would really help people to see that this is something that happens more often than we'd like to admit, but there are ways around it. There are ways to maybe sit through it. I honestly wished in my marriage that there was a referee, like a third party that knew us both, or I have a third party and he has a third party. Both of them know us very well, so they can sit down and kind of take all the bite out of it, like when I'm talking to you and you hear a key word and it pisses you off right away, but I know I have to say that word in order for you to understand. I'm not trying to dig at you, but they don't see it that way. So I wonder, do you think, way back in the day, there was such a thing as, you have your circle of friends, the two of you together, and if something happens, your friends will come in and be like, all right, come on, y'all acting up, and this is a little more blown out of proportion than it needs to be. Let's sit this down and get it. And it's not like that anymore.
I think there's still, it depends. I think that there's still friends who do that. I'm going to talk about kind of like a cautionary tale with that one.
Sure.
But I still think that there are friends who will be like, oh, what's really good, what's up, what's happening, etc. Yeah. When it comes to like the friend circle who are like in your marriage like that, in your relationship like that, even if they're mutual friends, depending on how you met, sometimes they lean, they lean one way, or they have quote unquote allegiances and lean one way or the other.
Right.
And it can be very difficult for them to really move without bias. And if they do move without bias, they've got their own, we all do, but they've got their own, bias of, well, this is how I would do it. This is what worked for me in my relationship, but it may not work for you and your husband. So it's kind of colored by their experiences, their advice, and even if they have your best interest at heart. And sometimes on the back end, they could be like, girl, I don't know, you sure you want to be with him? And you really do want to stick it out. You want to stick it out, and they don't necessarily understand it, especially when you start sharing some really deep-seated stuff. Like sometimes in a relationship, in a marriage, stuff really goes left. Somebody got called out, somebody got cussed out, somebody, somebody left and didn't come back, for 2 days, went to a hotel, and they're like, you shouldn't stand for that. You know what I mean? Like, he just left, or she just left. And at the end of the day, sometimes for friends, because they love you, it's hard for them to come back from that, to be like, so you just gonna forgive? Like, how you gonna handle that? How you gonna X, Y, and Z? And so you got to be careful with that, because they love you, but there's a lot of layers into how they can help the situation, and sometimes it doesn't line up with what you really want, and sometimes it can cause more conflict than help. So it really depends.
I totally hear that. I do. There's for every good situation, there's a bad one too. So I totally hear you.
Yeah.
But for me personally, what ended up happening was he was the kind of person that wanted to make sure that he owned every piece of information that was going into my head. So he had me alienate myself from everybody. So I was kind of looking at thinking, man, if I had somebody that would have maybe stood up for me a little bit so that I could maybe stand up a little bit faster than I did, that may have changed things. But that was, that's like devil's advocate. There's a good and a bad to every one of those situations. You just got to find what works for you.
Right.
Another thing is, I find I tend to shrink. And I'm talking totally about me, because I don't know what everyone's relationship or marriage or whatever it is like. I'm only talking about what I've been through.
Right.
I tend to be one of those all-encompassing people. I want to know everything about you. I want to help you get your dreams. I will put aside time and space and effort for you, because that's how I show you I love you. But in so doing, I tend to forget who I am as well. And I don't know whereabouts in that journey I become needy somehow or something. I don't know. There are two. I've only been in 2 relationships. Both of them I almost married them. But what ended up happening was I was all for them. I would be there in every capacity I could, learn whatever their favorite foods were, whatever their dreams were. I'd go out, research, and help them build, basically, because I thought that's the way it was supposed to be. But at some point, it kind of goes from me being well and capable of taking care of myself to not taking care of myself and suddenly needing more attention than I obviously would have in any other situation. Have you seen examples of that where it's almost all encompassing and you kind of just forget everything that you're doing for yourself?
Yeah, and because I'll have a lot of women who come to me and say that they feel lost. They feel like they've lost who they were. That they don't know who they are outside of being a mom or a wife, which were important to them. But there's this longing, and there's a piece of them that's like, well, what happened to me? What happened to who I am? What are my passions and interests? And I used to, and then you start to kind of go searching in the past for almost for clues to like who you are now in the present. Yeah. And so for you, because I know that you're super reflective and you're like, look, I'm working the process. What was that? What were the ways in which you still, when you're in a relationship, not when you're not in a relationship, that you still tapped into you? Was there anything that you were doing while you were in the relationship that's still like, okay, this is Pika stuff?
At that point, no, because I had 2 stepkids. I had a baby. I had him. I had plenty to keep me occupied. So it was like I didn't have time to think. But I feel like that happens to a lot of people. What I have found out is, though, for the woman, and I don't know if this is, I'm not saying a blanket statement. It could be either way. But for most women, if the relationship is not easy, breezy, like going well, they can't concentrate on nothing else. And for the man, it seems like if the work is not going well, they can't concentrate on nothing else.
Yeah. And that comes from, you know, kind of what they attach to it, right? So I hear a lot of men talk about like, oh, you know, I was talking to one gentleman who's like, yeah, my wife wants to be romantic. And I'm like, you know, we ain't got money for me to be whisking her off to this place. And I got to wine and with dinner and can't. And I'm like, did you ask her what, you know, romantic meant to her? Because you're immediately going through how much money you have to spend. And that is a stressful place. It's like, oh man, you know, if the bills aren't taken care of, if this is not taken care of, then everything's falling apart. And for the woman that, you know, having that connection and what they associate with, look, I'm having that connection, we're talking, we're doing this thing. And if that's not happening, I'm like, what is it me? Like, what happened? What did you do? Like, you know, you go into you questioning yourself. And, you know, because I heard you say, look, I held space for what it is that they wanted. So then there was time that was there. There was, you know, mental and emotional.
If I wanted to, I could have made time for me, but I wasn't.
Yeah, right. And see, there's the thing, right? And so working out, okay, well, where did that come from? Where the harmony was lost between when I'm in a relationship, I'm like, I'm all in it. So this is me like proving I'm all in it. But in doing so, all of the things that you feel like were you start to get lost in the mix. And it's not some easy thing to kind of find the harmony in, because you do have kids, you have a career, you have a man, you're doing, you know, you got outside family and people you're trying to talk to. So how do you really find that harmony? But really, if we can carve space out for what it is that they want, then how do we carve space out for the things that we need that light us up as well? Because there's always going to be, you're always going to play that you, me, and how do we think. In a marriage, in a relationship, it's just always going to be there. And so the longer you go without working through how that you harmonize that, the more difficult it can be to switch it and shift it. Because one of the things I would ask you is, because you're like, yeah, I'm supporting you in your dreams. Sometimes all they need in support is for you to be like, just vocal, like, hey, I got you. And sometimes we decide what they need for support. Like, oh, I'm going to be, I'm going to be at every game, I'm going to be every meeting, I'm going to be here, I'll make your phone calls, I'm going to send out the marketing letters, you know, like, and they're like, whoop, 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 you know, that's great. Yeah. But really, if I got all that, if you could just, and so sometimes you're pouring so much into someone that you think they need, and that's not even something they need. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's what we were talking about, you know, earlier in the conversation. How do we say what we want without, like, offending the other person or being offended by their reaction? And it really is those simple things. Like, everything comes back to my daughter right now, because obviously hindsight is 20/20. I can't go fix that. So just telling my daughter I need a hug. And it's easy with her, you know, because she's little. She's like, yeah, I want to hug you too. And sometimes I want to hug her if she don't want to hug me. And I'm like, the hell? Okay, whatever. But it's all good. But how come as adults we can't do that with each other? Like, if I want to sit on the couch and be held by you, like, just put your arm around me. I just want to be held. That's it. I don't need nothing else.
But why can't you say that? You sit down like, hey, what do you like? And I'm asking you because you're
I'm learning right now. I'm learning. So I need to be a little more brave when I have the situation pop up where I can even ask anybody that. But I'm noticing like the way I speak to her, I'm noticing, why couldn't I say that with anybody else? Like, why can't I say that with an adult? Why can't I tell somebody, look, I really don't like you touching that stuff because I feel like it needs to be in a certain way or whatever, because I don't want to offend them. It's stupid stuff like that, though, that really stops us from really communicating.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, with children, I was just talking to this about this with someone that I talked to yesterday, and children are super present. Like, they're the embodiment of presence. They're not worrying about bills. They're like, oh, you need a hug, and they tell you like it is. Like, I don't want that. You know what I mean? And we're not offended. You know what I mean? Because they're just expressing. They're just expressing the way that we feel that
they're just telling you like it is. Yeah.
They're telling you like it is. But as adults, we go through dialogues in our head. So let's, for instance, like, I want, you want to ask, something, and you're like, it seems really direct. Or like, what are they going to think about it? Are they going to be upset with me? Like, are they going to, feel like I'm asking something I'm not? Am I going to be misunderstood? And so once you go through the dialogue in your head, you're all worked up. You know what I mean?
And you talk yourself out of everything. So it's just like, okay, it's not worth it.
I'm not even going to do it. Like, you just wanted them to get you a cup of coffee. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't have to. But the reality is that we go through all of that. Like, but it's not about the cup of coffee. It's about, well, we've been working on like where our roles and responsibilities are. So if I ask him to get the coffee, is he going to be annoyed because, I've been working too much and he wants me to, so there's all these other things around it. And really, you're not having the conversation that you need to have. You're not talking about how things need to shift.
We're missing the point. Anyway. Yep.
Right. So then the small things become like, oh man, I don't want to trigger that thing that we haven't talked about. And we just sweeping under the rug, and it's a big lump we about to, trip over because we've been sweeping so much under the rug. So that's really what then it starts to become, because it's not about the coffee, it's not about the toilet paper and all of that. So you should. I mean, we should absolutely be able to just request, like, this is what we need. And sometimes we say this is what we need, because I practice this in my own marriage. And my husband don't, he's not forgiving me that, or vice versa. And that can be like, damn. But, it's also like, this is the place that I'm in, honestly. And so it's really about being able to also accept each other's honesty and accept the reaction that we have. If he says something to me and I accept it, but it still makes me cry, okay. You know what I mean? And so don't not tell me and be honest because you don't want me to cry. It's one of those things where if this is my honest reaction, that's my honest reaction, but I still want you to tell me because we have to talk about these things. But I also still have to have the space to react the way that I react. Right. You know what I'm saying? And within reason, because if it's, I'm a New Yorker, and I can be very passionate. I know thyself, but I'll have to be like, okay, let me move aside. Let me take a walk. You know what I mean? I have to also know what I need to do.
We need time we're Pisces. We need time to process.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I need to do what I need to do, and I know that he's taking his space and he's doing what he needs to do. But those kind of things, to be like, I just want to be honest with you and feel like you can't quite do that, those are the things that really make for uncomfortable, quote unquote, minor situations. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So before I got on here with you, I was trying to think of, the best relationship that I can think of that I have in my life currently, where I feel like I could say anything and it's okay. And honestly, it's my brother. My brother's also Pisces. Now, we will go at each other. I will call him out. We will cuss each other out. We will start crying and screaming and whatever else. He will grind it. I hate it when he grinds his teeth. But what will happen is I'll hang up the phone and I won't talk to him. And maybe 20 minutes later, because it's just who I am, I'm going to call him back and be like, look, I made a mistake. I was wrong to bring up this, this, and this. But I need you to understand this is where I'm coming from. It's like I have to get it out. I have to yell and scream sometimes. And then I can get it out of my system. But I realize the reason that's one of my most treasured relationships is because I am not afraid of what he thinks of me. I am not afraid that he will leave me. I am not afraid that he will stop talking to me anymore. It's not because he's related to me, blood relative, none of that. There are plenty of relatives that don't even talk to me. But this particular one, I know he's got my back. And I know he wants the best for me. He may not come across that way every time, and I want to punch him in his face sometimes, but he's got my back, and I know it. So I wish, if I could put out a challenge to everybody watching, anyone who will watch in the next 24 hours, if you could do a tell it like it is challenge, try very carefully to say what's on your mind, and then take whatever comes with it afterwards, just as a reaction and not flip out. I think that would be an easy step, maybe.
It's not easy, but it's an important one. I love it.
I think it is. I don't think anybody, I think too much before I say anything. I'm going to run our whole conversation through my head before I say anything, and they're like, no, it's okay, never mind. It's okay.
And then talk yourself out of it. Exactly. And I love how you described, because a lot of healthy marriages, believe it or not, is like the relationship you described with your brother, that, when you're in a situation, because there are times when you're like, I can't really, there are just times like that, in relationships, there just are. But if you can come back to it, like you said, and say, look, man, I shouldn't have done that, and course correct quickly without all the ego and stuff in the mix, because that's what I have to do. Like, I have to check my ego. He has to check his ego. We have to be able to come back to each other and say, you know what, I didn't handle that well. Like, real talk. I knew that you needed space, and I still looked in your face, and I know I shouldn't have done that. And the quicker you can course correct the way, that's how you know that you're not wallowing, you're not spending 7-8 days in silent treatment. And so that's really awesome that you have that with your brother, that you can do that, and you can have those conversations and those moments and come back to it. Because that's the thing. And think about it, if you're dealing from really tight relationships with their family, friends, or marriages for me, if you don't feel like if you're feeling afraid that what the person will think of you, and this is like a spouse or a sibling that you're close to or what have you, then that really is telling, right? It's really revealing of the game we talked about in the beginning, which is trust. So you want to be able to say, I'm not afraid of what you think about me. And I will say this last thing, that often when I hear that, it's in people's heads. Like, they're like, oh, if I do this, then they'll leave me. Or if I do this, I'm like,
they're assuming. Mm-hmm.
Right. They're assuming, they've imagined this thing. They've put this kind of story on the situation that has no precedence or history to say that that's even a reality. And that then you have to kind of separate the fact from the fiction to get to what's really happening. And they're like, oh, I think it was kind of in my head. I had someone in my group, kind of have that revelation.
It is amazing the stuff that goes on inside your head as you're trying to, like, it's the stupid stuff you keep telling yourself. And it is your voice inside your head saying something stupid.
Yep.
So, man, I love our conversations, even if it's just on Messenger stuff. So, yeah, everybody, please, please, please follow her. Her name is Imani Aeishah. Imani.
I know, it's hard.
If I don't see it, I'm so sorry.
Got 18 vowels on it. Yes, IMA, it's up there, right next to it says with Imani Aeishah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm better at spelling than I appear to be at the moment.
No, it's okay, because it literally has 3 vowels in the beginning, so it's very, like, who does that? So I get it.
Oh my gosh, she is phenomenal, you guys. She does a lot of content. She has a lot of thought-provoking questions on her stories, on her Facebook. She's forever on just giving knowledge and dropping knowledge and, giving you other situations where you need to think about it. This trust thing is real. Do you trust the other person in your relationship with your feelings?
Yeah.
Do you trust them to be able to, say what you feel and trust that they're not going to flip out or make you feel bad for feeling the way you do? Or are they going to, flip out first and then kind of come back and you'll sort it out afterwards?
Right. See? Nuances. Yes. I love it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Anytime you want to get on here, I would love to. I would love to do a series if you wanted to. I mean, we could.
We're going to talk about
play devil's advocate.
Yeah, that would be fun. Scenario 1. What would you do? We can have fun with this pizza.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love it. You know me, I'm all love. She's also all love, but she focuses a lot more on marriage and relationships. You guys, if you need anything, please hit her up. She's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pika. Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
Bye,
I'll catch y'all later. Bye.